And always a pleasure to have Mike Davis with us, specializing in constitutional law. He's also the president and the founder of the Article 3 Project. Mike, when you listen to, folks like Claude Bouchard and others there, it's like the talking points are wild. It's almost like they're trying to prop up these folks. The anchors don't really want to see this through a critical lens.
Yeah, I would say this, that acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove gave both Daniel and Hagan an important civics lesson, because they need to understand that federal prosecutors in America work for the Deputy Attorney General, who works for the Attorney General, who works for the duly elected President of the United States. And when the President and the Attorney General make the policy decision that they want to drop a prosecution against the New York City Mayor, Eric Adams, it shouldn't matter what their reasons are. Their job is to follow lawful orders as federal prosecutors and implement those policy decisions. Otherwise, they are obstructing justice. And remember, Eric Adams was targeted by the Biden Justice Department because he raised concerns about illegal immigration in New York City.
Yeah. It's an interesting outrage, but of course everything is, outrage now. Even when J.D. Vance is talking over in Europe about how we need to protect free speech, outrage over that. I want to play this clip, getting a lot of reaction. Secretary of State Marco Rubio with the CBS News' Margaret Brennan, and she was talking about how the Nazis weaponized free speech in order to perpetuate the Holocaust, and something Rubio clearly took notice with and pushed back on. Let's play this.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
Well, leaving aside that there are elections in Germany and they're maybe trying to seed something with this extremist air quotes that they want to go, but let's just take up the free speech. J.D. Vance, Mike, reacted saying, "This is a crazy exchange." He tweets, "Does the media really think the Holocaust was caused by free speech?" Well, there's a lot, obviously to unpack with that, but where do you think they're going with this, and why would they put this in the conversation?
These leftists, particularly in the mainstream, meaning left-wing media, are getting desperate. They are losing their monopoly over speech, and that is driving them bonkers, as we just saw with that anchor, where she makes these asinine comments that free speech somehow caused the Holocaust. I mean, that's just insane.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, too, because 60 Minutes actually put out a clip that showed a German state police raiding a home. A suspect's laptop and phone was seized because that person posted a racist cartoon online. So when J.D. Vance is talking about free speech and things that he says are, an issue in Europe, he's getting vindicated there big time. Real quick, what's going on here? The U.S. government is trying to rehire a number of staffers at the National Nuclear Security Administration after U.S. officials said up to 350 employees were abruptly laid off. Of course, this is part of DOGE, reduced federal spending. The agency's director, Teresa Robbins, issued a memo reversing the firing for all but 28 of those fired staff members. Mike, she put out a letter saying it serves as a formal notification that your termination on February 13th has been rescinded effective immediately. Can she do that? Isn't this interfering with the executive branch?
That's a very good question. I hope this executive branch official got permission from the White House before she did that, because these executive branch officials report to the president of the United States, his White House staff, and his agency heads. And if they don't think that they report to the duly elected president of the United States, if they want to be insubordinate, they're going to be finding their next job.
Well, there's also this wild story we want to bring up and ask you to react to. So Doge, and there was a ruling blocking Doge from accessing the Treasury Department documents that came in. But now this Federalist piece is actually looking at the judge who signed off on this temporary restraining order. And it says that he didn't even read. If you look at the timestamp of the final complaint, he just went ahead and did it. This injunction actually stops Trump, the Treasury Secretary, from accessing documents. So a judge is just rubber stamping it. I'm sure you're not surprised, but now at least it's out in the open and Americans can see this. The activist judge is at it again.
Yeah, these activist judges actually think the president of the United States and his Treasury Secretary cannot look at Treasury payments for waste, fraud, and abuse. That is insane. That's not going to be upheld by the Supreme Court of the United States. And these activist judges need to understand when they lose their legitimacy, they will lose their power and they will lose their funding.
Mike Davis, Article 3, president and founder, Article 3 Project. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by to Newsline today.
Thank you.